Murder Therapy with Doll Talk, and in case you haven't put it together, we're still talking about Jeff Dahmer.
Still talking about him.
Still
No,
talking
not.
about him. He's a lot. Yeah, well, I don't. I'm totally taking a bath when we're done with this one. Like, it's just, he's a lot.
No,
So,
I'm telling
I'm
you, just
hoping.
like sage your house. Like you, the last episode, the girls were like, "We're done. This guy, we're
They're
only
like, we
like
hate this guy.
3 or 4 murders in, and he's gross."
He is. Well, he just has done so much.
They said he's
Um,
lying to his granny.
he's lying to his granny, and we fucking had it. That's it for us.
Let's dive in.
We're done.
Yeah.
Yes, we're
Sorry,
gonna dive
girls.
in. Yeah, all right, here we go. So he's got kicked out of Grandma's house because shit's not working out. And again, remember, Granny loves him a lot. So for her to be like, you know what, I'm done being your enabler. They have no idea of the things that he's doing, but he's doing some bizarre shit, obviously.
Something
Um,
stinks.
something stinks. Grandma, that's just a dead raccoon. I can't get
I'm
to it.
stuffing animals down here.
I wish if I could, I would dissect it, and look at it, but I can't get to the dead raccoon. So,
Mm-mm.
all right. So Jeff is able to get his own place, and you would think that he would do better. He's got him a job, but now he doesn't have anybody kind of micromanaging what he's doing, because there was a few times that he was taking men back home that Grandma happened to wake up and hear, and by the grace of God, I mean, Granny kind of saved their lives, honestly. And she's like, "Who
Facts.
you got down there, Jeff?" And he's like, "Nobody, Grandma. There's nobody here. I hear people talking, Jeff. What are you doing?" Nothing
Walk down the
TV.
stairs, Granny. I just brought a
Going down
friend
the basement.
home. Like he.
Yeah, but she truly did save
Mm-hmm.
those guys' lives. And I don't think that it was a lot. I think it was just a couple.
Wasn't
But
there
yeah,
one
so
in
he's
particular she like literally saved? Am I
oh
jumping
yeah, there
ahead?
was one. No, no,
Okay.
you're okay. I mean, I kind of jumped ahead a little bit, but I'm glad you brought it up. But there was one that she came down and she sees him. He was African American, and what's sad is I don't mean this. I am not a racist person at all, or a homophobic, but in that time frame, you got to think she came from the era like the blacks and the whites didn't associate together. So she's like,
Mm-hmm.
"I didn't know you had black friends, Jeff." And he's like,
Wasn't
"What do you
accepted.
mean,
Yeah.
Yeah, it wasn't accepted." So, but at this point, he had drugged him, and she knows something's not right, and
This
she
was wasn't it
stayed
like multiple days in a
downstairs.
row? She's like, "What are you doing? What are you doing?" And finally, she's like, "I'm coming down to see what you're doing."
Yeah, and it was this particular boy. He's pissed because it's like what you said, he had a routine, and
Yeah.
Grandma has interrupted this routine, and they end up taking him to a bus station and just kind of dropping him off in the
Told him he
show.
had too much to drink. He was just taking
Yeah,
care of him. It was yeah.
and yeah, um and I'm pretty certain that that boy ended up reporting it to police, and he's like, "I don't know what this guy's doing,
Mm-hmm.
but there was drugs in my system that I did not take." And nothing was really ever done. I think that they went and interviewed him and the grandmother was like, "Well, there was something wrong with him. We took him." And Jeff's like, "I didn't do anything. I was just trying to take care of like this, super intoxicated guy." And which was not the case. He
And he
wouldn't have
gave
been
him the
super
whole
intoxicated.
yeah, the picture spiel. He did his whole normal
Hmm.
routine. And grandma messed it up.
And but
Thank
thank God
God.
that grandma messed
Thank
it up.
God.
Yeah, thank God. Absolutely.
Didn't
So at
they
this
put
point,
him
Jeff
on the
is
bus? He put him or just left him at the bus
well.
stop.
The show portrays the series, the Dahmer series that's on Netflix, where Evan Peters plays Jeffrey Dahmer. They portray it that he puts him on a bus and he's like, take him wherever he wants to go, and the guy's so drugged up that he's on the bus all day, passed out, and the bus driver finally stops and he's like, "Dude, you gotta go. This is as far as my bus goes."
Yeah.
And he gets out and he kind of is going through a field. I don't think that that's the way it played out. I think, as of course, Hollywood makes things a lot more dramatic. Not that you could make this any more dramatic than what
It's
it
got to be
already
good
is,
for TV. It's
but
got to fit TV.
it's
Yeah.
got to be, yeah, it's got to fit TV. So they put him in a car, and it was at night. He didn't actually stay until the morning, like what they put in the show. They put him in the car and took him to a bus stop and kind of left
Yeah.
him. And I'm sure in her mind, she probably really did believe that he was super intoxicated and drunk because she knew Jeff had an alcohol problem
Yeah.
anyway.
She's
And she's like, if
innocent.
you
She
you
doesn't.
don't think that Lionel's going to hear about this?
You
And he's
just
like,
don't
great, now I'm
jump
going
to
to have
those
to shoot out.
conclusions. Like, if you were a parent of a serial killer,
Nobody
would you want
would.
to even go to those conclusions?
Nobody would.
Yeah.
I wouldn't jump to that conclusion ever in a
Yeah.
million years. But if any of my kids were showing any of these symptoms as small children, I would have done nip this shit in the bud and got them help.
Facts.
I definitely wouldn't be enabling it.
No.
But she's like, when I speak to your father, your ass is gross.
Yeah.
Like, you're getting the hell out of my house, Jeff.
Yeah. I'm done. My house stinks. You're
We're
bringing
done.
strangers
I'm
home.
done.
Yeah.
You're bringing strangers in my house, and my house fucking stinks. You're going on.
She probably thinks it's his feet.
Anyway,
Put your shoes
I
back
don't
on.
know whose feet smells like a decomposing body, but if they do, you need to go to the pediatrist. I'm
Listen,
just throwing that
you
out
never
there.
smelled my little brother's feet. No, I'm just kidding. They don't smell like a dead body, but they're terrible. Anyway,
Oh God,
he's
that's so
leaving
gross.
Granny's house.
All right, he's left Granny's house. He's got his own place. He's got a job in a chocolate. No, I'm sorry, he wasn't working in the chocolate factory anymore. I don't think, or maybe he was. I can't remember. There's so much going on with him. But fun fact, in case you didn't know that, Jeff did work in a chocolate factory.
He did.
He actually, and there was times that he did keep human remains in his locker at the chocolate factory.
But I think around this time, didn't he work at a butcher?
I think that was prior before.
Oh,
He
okay.
did a lot of different
Yeah.
things. Yeah, he did a lot of different things. And obviously with his record that he had already established, especially being a registered sex offender, he didn't really have a lot of options as far as like a career choice or whatnot. But the apartment complex that he found, it was really cheap.
Mm-hmm.
It was kind of in like I don't want to say the ghetto or the hood, but I mean that's kind of where.
Yeah.
Yeah, the rent was cheap. I don't think that there was a lot of white people living in that apartment. I don't mean that in a derogatory way whatsoever. I don't want people to take it like that.
We're
But
giving
was
facts. A
in
lot of his neighbors
were African American. There was a lot of black people in this area. He did have a neighbor who I can't remember her name. I feel so bad, but she does play a big role into this. And we're going to touch more on that here in just a few.
She notices some shit.
She does notice some shit, and she did everything in her power to nip that shit in the bud, nobody listened.
Yeah, she was a godsend to,
I don't know if she's still alive or not, but she has to truly have some mental issues, knowing what she knows now.
I think she is alive. I know I'm going to look it up.
She was such... I can't imagine what that would be like. I really can't. Especially knowing that she tried and no one would listen to her. That's the sad part.
I'm going to look it up because she deserves her flowers for sure.
She does deserve her flowers.
Okay. And of course, Niecy Nash is who played in the series.
I know, she did such a good job.
Glinda Cleveland.
Mm-hmm. Glinda Cleveland. There we go. All right. Now, when Dahmer had moved into his own place, he did offer a 13-year-old.
Oh, she passed away.
$50.
Sorry.
Oh, did she? Aw.
But
he offered a 13-year-old $50 to pose for nude photos. He was arrested for that. The 13-year-old plays a significant case, though, because he is in relation to one of Dahmer's victims. And it's like, what are the
Yes.
fucking odds
Yeah.
of that? It's crazy. Um, in 1989, so we're in January of 1989,
Well, that
he
family
was
took him to
convicted.
court. He went to he was arrested and went to court with that family and already faced the parents.
Hmm.
So small little
Yeah, so
tidbit.
they knew who he was.
Yeah.
They knew exactly who he was.
Mm-hmm.
January 1989, Jeff was convicted of second-degree sexual assault, and enticing a child of immoral purposes. He was sentenced May 23rd to 5 years and 5 to 3 years. Um, Sentences to be served, consecutively. Uh, he only served 10 months and then started 5 years probation.
Jesus.
Again, I know, getting out of everything. March 25th of that year, Anthony Sears, who is 24, this is the last time that he was seen alive on this particular date. Dahmer met him at a club. He took him back to his home. After sex, he drugged Sears and murdered him. Uh, they did find his skull. He was able to apparently keep this skull, and it was painted and reserved in Dahmer's apartment.
Mm-hmm.
He kept that one. Yeah, it's so disturbing.
It's gross.
All right, 1990. We're just moving on, and he's done a lot. Ricky Beeks, who was 33. This is the last time he was seen alive. Dahmer met him at a club. Most of these people that he meets are within the gay bars. He offered him money to pose for, nude photos. He drugged him. He strangled him. He had sex with the dead body. The victim, let's see. Oh, I'm sorry. Dahmer took pictures. At this point, he had purchased a Polaroid camera,
Yeah. Oh, I was
and this
hoping.
is when
Okay.
he really started taking pictures. Sorry, I forgot to mention
So he
that.
wasn't lying when he said he wanted them to pose for pictures, but they were personal pictures for him.
Oh my God, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, he went lying.
Yeah.
And he probably did give him $50, but I imagine he took his $50 back. He's like, "Give me my
Yeah.
$50 back."
And just to make it known, he moved out and he had to gather up a new routine. So obviously it's still stuck. You met him at a bar. The posing stuck to his same routine. He'd bring him back to his apartment rather than his granny's house. And obviously his apartment doesn't have a basement and all this stuff. He always made them watch, it was a movie.
Oh yeah, The Exorcist.
Was it The Exorcist? Okay, I couldn't remember the movie.
Yes,
It was
he
bizarre,
would.
but always made them watch this movie, and it was weird.
Yeah.
But that was his routine, and
Well,
then he started his shenanigans.
yes, yeah. Again, sorry y'all. Dahmer's he's a lot.
Yeah,
There's just so much to him, and there's so much information about him. But
I don't know the routine
this is
of
when he
when he made
started.
him watch the video because I feel like they did sexual things, and then like they already knew they were in trouble when he forced them to watch the movie. I think so.
Yeah,
Yeah. Anyway,
I would. I don't even like The Exorcist
I,
to begin with.
I don't think I've
Much
ever
less do I
seen it.
want to watch it on repeat.
Yeah.
Like, anywho, this is really when the pictures started beginning as far as like the bodies, and he would pose them in very dysfunctional ways. Um, but he would take pictures while he was dismembering them.
Yeah.
So
Ugh.
you would have like body parts just all over everywhere, and he was taking pictures of this.
On
I guess
his
to re
mattress.
Yeah, on his mattress, in the living room floor, on the couch, just wherever.
Yep.
Don't mind. Just, oh, you want to have a seat? Move that arm there. Just scoot it on over. It's fine. Like he's
But that's not how
he's
he did try to hide the body parts so they weren't out in the open like
he
that.
well he did, but he's just so disgusting. Um, he's so disgusting.
He just never got rid of
Anywho,
them. I just don't understand why.
So Ernest Miller, we're going to September the 2nd. We're still in 1990. A lot's going to happen in 1990 because at this point when he gets his own place,
Nobody's there. Yeah.
nobody's there, so the killing spree really escalated at this point. He just had free will to do whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Ernest Miller, who was 24, this is the last time he's seen alive. Dahmer met him in front of a bookstore. So this one was outside of a club. So this one was a little bit different. Of course, Dahmer offered him money to come home with him. After sex, as always, Dahmer drugged him. He ended up cutting his throat. And that was a little bit different. And I didn't realize that. I didn't know that he had slit anyone's throat. I always thought his form of killing was like strangulation,
Mm-hmm.
but he actually ended up slitting his throat. He took pictures, and that's how we know he did that. He took pictures of this man with a slit throat. He then dismembered him, took pictures while he was dismembering him. He put his biceps in the freezer. Yeah, I know. He bleached the skeleton and he painted the skull. And I think this is kind of when he started building his altar that he wanted to build. Because remember, we talked about earlier, he wanted to build an altar. That of course they found all these like things in his apartment when he's arrested in 91. All right, David C. Thomas on September the 24th. Dahmer met him on the street and offered him money to come home. That was his go-to. I'll give you money if you come with me.
Mm-hmm.
And back, $50 in that time was a lot of money.
Ooh.
That was a lot of money. Dahmer drugged him. Now, believe it or not, he didn't have sex with him. He didn't rape him. But he murdered him after. And I think that this is the one that he said he didn't find attractive. So I don't understand what the point of killing him. Yeah. He wasn't attracted to him. So he didn't.
That is weird. Because we didn't talk about that, but yes, he was attracted to all of his victims.
Yeah, that he was attracted to all of them. Mm-hmm. So he took pictures as he his body as well. All right. We're going to 1991. He's been a busy guy, I know. March 7th. Curtis Straughter, who was 18 years old at this time, Dahmer picked him up at a bus stop. Of course, he offered him money to come home with him, as he always does. He drugged him, he raped him, and he strangled him. He was taking pictures of the dismembered body. The skull, which he didn't paint this skull, he didn't paint this one, was recovered from Dahmer's apartment after his 1991 arrest. This isn't the one. I'm sorry. I was about to say this is the one that he drilled the hole in the head, but that's not him. Sorry. I was getting him confused. Again, forgive me, y'all, because there's a lot with him.
Yeah.
There's just too many. All right, Errol Lindsay, who is 19. This is April the 7th, literally a whole month later. Dahmer met him on the streets, offered him money to come home with him. He drugged him. He strangled him. He had sex with his corpse because that's his thing. He doesn't want them to be moving. He also kept his skull. He dismembered him. He took pictures. He posed him in very provocative, unnatural ways and took photos as he dismembered him.
And these were like nightly activities. Like he would do this in
this was an every night thing.
He would stay up all night long doing this.
Now, his neighbor, Miss Glinda, like we were talking about earlier, is hearing all this shit, and she was calling police.
Constantly.
Constantly. You can listen to the audio tapes online, and she's like, I heard someone scream, and they're like, we'll check it out tomorrow. And she's like, tomorrow will be too late.
Like she heard power tools from him dismembering them. one like
Mm-hmm.
the smells she's because they shared a ventilation so their walls were up against each other so they had a vent that went into her apartment from his and the smells she said she constantly called about the sounds the smells people screaming like they have so many calls on record from her and none of them were addressed.
Yeah, they did nothing.
Yeah.
Absolutely nothing. And shame on them. Like, if they would have addressed her first phone call, half of these people would still be alive.
Yep.
And that's the messed up part.
Mm-hmm.
All right, who did we just cover? Because there's so many. Was it Errol Lindsay? Yeah,
Yeah.
April
Yeah.
16th. Yeah, okay. All right. May 17th. And it's crazy because usually serial killers have a cool off period. You know what I mean? They
Mm-hmm.
like he had none. None. I
Jeez.
mean, he was on a fucking spree. And it wasn't like a cool off period of months. I mean, it was like
He withheld the beast for
one.
so long before this, and now he's just
Well,
like, woof.
it got to a point that he had so many bodies in his house that he was even taking a shower with a corpse in his bathtub.
100%. Like the amount
It,
of body parts in his fridge and his freezer.
not a house, in an apartment.
Oh, he had a deep
There's
freezer,
not
didn't
a,
he?
yeah, he had a deep freezer. But he also at this point has got barrels in the corners of his house with acid where he's putting remains. Like, he's running out of room.
Let me just put a lamp on this
And
barrel.
yeah, let me, oh my God.
Use it as a. God. I'm sorry. That's not funny. That's very
It's
distasteful to the
not
victim.
funny, but
But.
you can't help it. Yeah, no, you're good. So, and that's why it's not about him. It's about recognizing the victims more
Mm-hmm.
than anything. And that's why I'm trying to say all their names and go over each one individually because it's important that they're not recognized as a victim, but as, you know what I mean? They shouldn't be remembered in that aspect, but unfortunately, anytime you hear those names, that's what people are going to associate it
I know
with.
the
And
families came out and talked about how they hate that he's glorified and yeah, I hate that for them because I 100% agree with them as we're sitting here doing
yeah,
this, but it's just to
as
bring
we're
you
sitting here doing
facts.
it, yeah.
Yeah.
So on May 17th of 1991, Dahmer met 14-year-old. I can't say his name, but this is the one that plays a significant
Mm-hmm.
role because he's already had a situation with
Yeah.
the family. That's what blows my mind is what are the odds of that ever happening? Like, it's slim to none. But I believe it's Conorak. I hope I'm saying it right. I'm probably not. I'm not even going to attempt to say it. They were Native American. He meets him in front of a mall. He offered him money to pose for, pictures. And what I don't
This whole
understand.
situation makes me so mad.
It makes me mad too because it's one of those situations where do you think that the boy recognized him and knew who he was
I
and
was
what damage
literally
he had
thinking
done?
that. I don't know. I have no idea.
I mean, it's one of those things. Will we ever know? I don't know, but and then it makes me wonder: did Dahmer realize that that was one of the people related to the family he had already fucked up anyway?
Yeah.
There's so many questions about that, but that boy went back, and obviously we know what happened. He ended up
He was not as lucky as his brother,
he was
unfortunately.
not as lucky as his brother, unfortunately. Spoiler alert, he ends up killed. But after pictures, he ended up drugging him. He did take pictures of him before, which
Mm-hmm.
is so disturbing. Um, so he's got him drugged. He breaks his routine a little bit. Like,
Yes.
well, he's all
All
right.
hell breaks loose.
All hell breaks loose. He decides he's going to leave to go get beer. At this point, this kid
Because
is
he
stripped
ran
down in
out.
nothing but his underwear. The kid gets out. He's wandering the streets. He's not coherent whatsoever. He's just all over the place. Dahmer gets back. He's pissed. He's like, what are you doing out of the house? Like, you're supposed to be asleep. And they're like, they've called the police. Police are there active on the scene.
The neighbor, Glenda, was that her name?
Mm-hmm.
She was the one, her and her
Yes.
daughter had found him hitting the walls because, of course, he was drugged and he couldn't walk straight. They saw him out in the hallway in his underwear and they were like, what is going on? And so they called the police, and that's when Dahmer came in to interrupt the police talking to the child and the neighbor outside. Go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah. No, you're good. So the police are there. They're responding to this. Here he comes, and they're like, what did you do? And he's like, well, I didn't do anything. That's my boyfriend. He's had a lot to drink. Let me get him upstairs. They're like, no, he needs to stay with us. Like, we need to get him help. This is a child. He's like, he's 18. And they're like, no, he's a child. Of course, police don't want to get involved. And they're like, well, how do we know that this is your boyfriend? So what does Jeff do? He pulls out those pictures he conveniently had. And he's like, see, we took these pictures. He's my boyfriend. And
What I
they
have these.
literally
Yeah.
delivered him like
Handed him back.
Yeah, handed him back. And on they went.
Oh.
She called again. That's the thing. Glenda called again, and you can listen to this 911 call, and it's so heartbreaking because she's like, what came of that? And they're like, we checked it. It's an 18-year-old boy. And she's like, that's a child. He didn't look 18 to me.
She was furious.
That's a child. She was livid. And she, and they're like, we did what we were supposed to do. And she's like, you didn't do what you were supposed to do. He is a child and something's wrong and you need to do something before it's too late. And they didn't act on it at all. And what happened? He ended up killing that boy. He had sex with his remains. He dismembered him, took pictures as he always does. And here we go.
And let's just say
every bit of that could have
Glenda
been.
was on his radar at this point now. Like, he knew she was on
Oh,
to
she
him.
knew. She knew. She knew what was going on.
She did, but he didn't know she was on to him. At this point, he didn't know she was calling the cops, but now he does. He's fully aware that she's wondering, and she's just starting to figure things out, and it makes him uncomfortable. So he starts making her uncomfortable.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Well, by the way, he's still working for the chocolate factory at this point.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so I just double checked. Yeah, he's still working for the chocolate factory. He is calling in a lot because his killing is like it literally was consuming his everyday life because he's having to make room. He's got all these bodies in his house. Neighbors are starting to complain at this point that there is a smell coming out of his apartment. The landlord, whatever you want to call them, apartment manager, calls Jeff. Doesn't go by. He calls him. And he's like, Jeff, I'm getting a lot of complaints about your apartment. He's like, yeah, I had meat go bad in my freezer. I got to get rid of it. And they're like, okay, fine. Newsflash, the smell doesn't go away. I can't imagine why. He calls again. He's like, Jeff, I'm still getting complaints. Yeah, I know you are. Yeah, I got to get it taken care of.
The freezer's still broken.
I think I kind of wonder if that didn't play a role in him missing work as much as what he was. You know what I mean? To try, because he knows they're on to me and I got to get rid of the evidence somehow. But it's like, at this point, the obsession with the thrill of the kill, I guess you could say, was consuming him so much that he wasn't even playing cleanup between each one. It's like, bring one in, and I mean, it's bodies gross. Are, when I tell you they're stacking up, I'm not exaggerating. That's not me making a dig at them, but I mean, literally, they're just stacking up on top of each other. It's disgusting.
Yeah.
He's got bodies in his bedroom. He's got, it's gross. It's just, he's not your typical serial killer.
That just need to get rid of it. Yeah.
Yeah, he wanted to keep them.
It's weird.
It is. All right, May 24th, Tony Hughes. Tony was a big. He had a whole episode on the Dahmer series. Do you know
Mm.
which one I'm talking about? He was the deaf boy.
Yeah. Yes. 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 Mm-hmm.
Now, I didn't know that. I don't know how factual that is that him and Dahmer like legit had
A relationship.
a relationship. I don't know if that's factual or not. And it I don't know.
He lived
I
the
don't mean this in a
longest
bad way.
in his grip. We will.
Yeah, that, but it's like did they portray it as that because he had a disability? And I don't mean it in a derogatory way. That's not what
Mm-hmm.
I'm getting at, but it's different.
Yeah.
I don't I just I don't know again if he did have a relationship, forgive me for saying that, but I don't know if Jeff was ever capable to love someone enough and to do that. You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
Yeah.
I'm not neglecting it. If it happened, it happened. I don't mean it in any cold, callous manner at all, but I just don't think that he was capable to really, truly love somebody and have that type of
Not in
relationship
the
with them.
manner that we
Because he,
know and recognize love, because he said he did this to these people because he was like fascinated and infatuated with them, and to him that was, you know, him showing his
I
fascination with
don't
them.
see him being in a romantic relationship.
He
I
was
just can't
ass
see it because,
backwards.
well, he didn't. His thing, his whole turn on for him was not willingness. He wanted them to be forced. He didn't want them to move.
Mm-hmm.
And he didn't want them to leave.
Yeah, and this gentleman, I
So I
believe,
just,
they would literally just stay in his apartment and go nowhere. And he was like, we gotta go back to the real world. Like, this is not, we can't just stay in your apartment. And you know,
yeah. Well, on the other things that I have found, that's what I was getting at. I don't think that that was a romantic relationship
okay,
as what they portrayed it. That's what that's the way I interpret it.
TV versus
Don't get me
research.
wrong.
Yeah,
Yeah, exactly. The Dahmer series, I would watch it over and over again. Evan Peters is my guy. I fucking love him. If you listen to this, Evan, we love you. But we
facts.
he did an incredible job playing him. And the guy that played Tony Hughes did incredible playing him as well.
Everybody was
But
amazing.
I just everybody was incredible, but I just don't think that that's the way that that played out
Yeah,
because Dahmer did what Dahmer always does, and he offered him money to pose. He was an aspiring model. That is factual. He really did want to get his name out there and be recognized. Um, but as always, he was drugged, he was raped, he was dismembered, and then the remaining part of his photos were as they always are, and he, photographed the crime like as he was doing it.
yeah,
It's sad. It
it's
really is really, really
heartbreaking.
sad. All right. So Tony Hughes. Now we're going to Matt Turner. We're going to June 30th. Think about that. May 24th, just a little over a month, and he's going for another one.
And this is
And he
91.
still is. This is 1991.
Okay.
91 was his big year.
Okay.
This is also the year that he gets caught, but this is the big year that his bullshit is going on. Mom likes, well, she hates when I use the F word a lot on this. She's like, you use the F word. But she loves when I said fuckery. She thinks it's the funniest word. So this is when a big part of his fuckery is like going on.
It's so funny. Our moms are so much
Right.
alike. My mom said the same thing.
I know. She's like, you all use the F word too much. All right. So June 30th, Matt Turner, who was 20 years old, they met in Chicago at the bus station. This was after a gay pride parade, actually.
Okay.
And yeah, Dahmer offered him money to pose nude. And guy's like, sure, all right, I'll do it. So he drugged him. He strangled him with a strap. After cutting the body up, Dahmer put his head in the freezer. He kept the whole head. He didn't, it wasn't just the skull anymore. Every time we go on at this point, it's escalating a little bit more and more and more. He put the rest of his remains in a barrel full of acid in his apartment because everybody has barrels of acid in their house. Where do you keep yours, Ash?
In my hall closet.
Mine's in my kitchen.
It's
Yeah.
with
All
my
right.
coats.
Yeah. July 6th. Okay, so he killed Matt Turner on June 30th. We're now going to July 6th.
Mm.
Yeah, I mean, it's his timing just gets shorter and shorter and shorter and
And it's
shorter.
getting hot, guys. Oh, the smell.
Oh God, I don't even want to think. If I was Flint, I'd be fucking pissed.
Yeah.
Like you. All right, Jeremiah Weinberger. He was 23 years old. They met in Chicago at a gay bar. This is where Dahmer offered him money to come back to Milwaukee. Okay, this one's very unusual. Um, the he wasn't murdered until the day after he came home with Dahmer.
Hmm. I
Yeah,
think,
it's
yeah.
it's different. When this is when he indicated he wanted to leave. And then Dahmer's like, Dahmer don't like to be told that you want to go.
Yeah.
And the moment
He
that you
needs you to
walk in his
stay.
apartment, he needs you to stay. And by God, you're going to willingly or not. Like,
It's
so
true.
he drugged him, he strangled him, he dismembered him, he took pictures of the process. He also put his head in the freezer. So now he's got two heads in the freezer.
Mm.
Yeah, I know, it's so gross. And then he put the remaining part of his body in acid. Because everybody just keeps those things
Yeah.
normally. At this point, so July 15th has come along. Jeff gets fired from the chocolate factory. Can't imagine why.
I'm shocked it didn't
Can't
happen
imagine.
sooner.
I can't imagine why. So what do you think that Jeff does? He doesn't go apply for jobs. He's like, no more time to kill. Like
I don't
he's on
give
his
a.
spree.
No, I'm just kidding.
He's like, I don't give a fuck. The same day that he loses his job, Oliver Lacey, who was 23, they met on the street, okay, and they went back to Dahmer's apartment for body rubs. Yeah, I know.
How that conversation came about, I'm just curious.
He's like, hey, I just got fired. Will you rub me? I'll rub you. I'll rub you a few rubs.
You rub my back, I'll
Not
rub yours.
funny.
So it's not. God,
It's so
stop.
funny. He's like, I just got fired. I just got fired.
I'm
Come to
sad.
my apartment.
Yeah.
I'm so sad. Come to my apartment. Even though I called in, it's totally my fault. I got fired because I was too busy dismembering people. But come to my house. Come on over. All right. Of course, he's drugged as always. The same routine. I'm not even going to go into it because we've said it over and over. Um, he put his head though in the refrigerator. He's got two heads in the
Yes.
freezer, and now he has a head in the fridge. He this is a little gross. Although I can't, everything else was gross. So I feel like you can bear through this, but he carved out his heart and he put it in his freezer.
Yep.
And he planned on to eat it. Remember, he was very fascinated with the human heart. Very early on, he loved to listen to it beat. And he even had said in interviews that while his victims were still alive, drugged, he would listen to their heartbeat.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, he's a situation.
Yeah.
All right, Joseph Braidhoff. He was 25 years old. We're going to July the 16th. This is the very next day. I'm sorry. I didn't realize it. So he's like, well, I'm fired, so I'll go to my favorite thing to do.
I'm
The very
bored.
next day. I'm bored. This sucks. All right. Instead of cleaning up all his mess that he's already created, he's like, I'm just going to go on to the next one.
Just
So the very next
sloppy.
day, he's very sloppy. He meets him at a bus stop. He offered him money to pose for nude pictures. He goes through the whole process. At this point, it's no longer about keeping the skulls. He's keeping the heads. And he did put his head in the freezer as well. I don't know how your freezer has that much space for three human heads. It has to be a big ass freezer, is all I'm going to say. But whatever. Okay. Yeah. Anywho,
I can imagine it was big back in the early 90s.
I don't know which one of these, because we're coming up on our last one. One of these, though, and forgive me because I don't know which one it is, he at some point decided he was going to attempt to create like a human sex slave who would be incoherent. And this is when he had drilled the hole in one of their heads. I don't know which one it was. Not that it matters and that
Yeah.
they should be remembered as that. I mean, and I don't mean it in a bad way when I say not that that matters, but he had this fantasy that perhaps he could create such. So he did drill a hole in one of his victims' heads. And actually, he did it twice. I'm sorry, he did it two different occasions. The first one, he put hot water in because he thought that that would, I don't know, do something to the brain.
Yeah, he was so fascinated with the way the body worked, and he wanted to see how the brain would react, what it does.
Mm-hmm. The second one that he did it to, because obviously that didn't work. They lived for so long and then they died. But the second one, he put acid
Mm-hmm.
in their brain. He drilled the hole in the skull, and then he just kind of was like, "All right, I'm gonna put that in there, and maybe that'll." Because I don't, I don't know if he thought if he was able to be successful with that, if perhaps at that point the killing would stop. I don't know if it's his thought process is just all over the place. He's
Well, that
very
and he's gotten away
disorganized.
with it for so long, even having a run in with the police and got away with it. So now he's like, and then he's just getting sloppy with it, thinking he's not getting cocky and thinking he's not going to get caught. And now he's doing more and more out of his normal routine.
Well, he's had so many encounters with the police, his dad, his neighbors, his landlord, and no one has done anything. The only person that's trying to do anything is the neighbors,
Mm-hmm.
and no one's listening. No one, Glenda's at her wits' end. Um, I can't imagine.
Yeah.
But now we're coming up on our final one,
Yep.
who by the grace of God he was not successful with.
Thank goodness.
Um, thank goodness. Tracy Edwards, which he's been interviewed before. I don't know if you've ever watched the interview,
I have not.
but oh man, holy fuck. It gives you goosebumps. But he managed to escape Dahmer. He is the guy that ended up getting him caught finally.
Mm-hmm.
Thank God. And in his words in the interview, you got to watch it. You'll have to look it up. He literally said, "I knew he was either I'm going to die or I can die trying to get the fuck out." And
Hell
so I did everything
yes.
I could to get the fuck out, and he
Mm.
did. He did. So he met Dahmer, ended up going back to his place. He talks about how he said the minute I entered, the smell was awful for one.
Oh
He
God.
said, and it was just so bizarre. He said he had these big blue barrels that he had no idea what was in. He had no idea in the fridge right beside him that there's human remains in there. Who the fuck would think
And
that?
at this point, he's
He,
eating the bot, like he's like
yeah, at this
serving them
point,
up.
he's eating human remains.
Yeah.
He's eating some of these people.
Cooking them like it
He
was terrible.
trying to serve them to his neighbors.
Like one
Could you
particular.
imagine?
Yeah.
Yeah, he's like, you know, believe it or not, that scene, that particular
I
scene
wondered
that's
if
in
it
the
was
series,
embezzled.
that didn't happen like that.
Okay. I wondered.
Not to say that he didn't try to feed his neighbors some of that stuff.
Or intimidate
He
her.
did try to do it, and he probably did because he knew Glenda was fucking with him, and she's like, I don't like you. There's something about you, and I don't know what it is, but I don't fucking like you. And he's like, I made you a sandwich. And she's like, I don't want your fucking sandwich. I smelled your apartment. I don't want nothing that you cook. Like, anywho,
Yeah. I always wondered if that
he,
actually happened or if they just did that
I
for the
don't
show.
think that that's how that played out, but there, he did.
But
He legit did try to feed his
she did call
neighbors.
him out on his shit. I'm sure he tried to intimidate her and like play bigger dick, really. Like, you've tried to call the cops.
Mm-hmm.
What came of it? Nothing. So, yeah.
Because I don't know that he ever actually got eviction papers. I don't know that that ever happened.
I don't.
But in the series, they portrayed it like you're being evicted, and he was pissed because he was getting evicted, and he wanted her to take back the complaint. And that's not. He legit just would take food to his neighbors.
He was trying to be nice, and then she refused to take back the complaint in the show, and that's when
She's like, I don't want that damn sandwich.
yeah, that's when
I
the
wouldn't have ate it either.
switch flipped, and he started getting. Um, he tried to bully her at that point, and yeah, try to scare her, and then at that point, but she wasn't secretive about. I know you're up to something. She constantly told him. She constantly yelled down the hallway when she heard noises. So yeah.
Well, Tracy's in the apartment. He's noticing that something's not right. He's noticing power tools laying around. Like, I mean, he didn't hide his shit. He didn't make his apartment look cozy, and I mean, it's just really odd. And he knew his gut feeling was telling him, I gotta get out of here. So he ended up asking Jeff, he's like, can I go to the bathroom? Can I use it? And he's like, yeah, sure. And he goes in there. He thought if there's a window, I can climb through the window and get out. There's no window. He comes back out. Jeff's making him a drink. You and I both know what's in that drink.
Yep.
He ended up getting a handcuff on him. And I can't remember what the point of the handcuff part was. Forgive me. You'll have to watch the interview. It's really
Yeah.
it's bone chilling listening to his story and how he escaped. And he's like, "Can I go back to the bathroom?" And Jeff lets him go back to the bathroom. I don't know what the concept was there. I don't know if he was like brainstorming, what do I do? He starts talking about the smell. He's like, it really stinks in here. I kind of want to leave. And of course, Jeff's getting pissed because Jeff doesn't like to be told, I want to leave.
Yep.
And he's like, can we open up a window? Something. He ends up going to open up a window for him to like let some air in, and he books it to the door. Jeff turns around, tries to fight him to keep him in. He ends up managing to hit Jeff some way, knock him out, and he goes flying down the hallway and he's screaming for help. And
Oh
he's got
God.
this one handcuff. Yeah. So he gets out to the streets. He sees some cops. He's like, "Oh my God, you got to help me. Like, I just escaped. There's this guy's up to something." They did try to remove the handcuff off of his wrist. Their key didn't fit it. So they're like, "Well, we're going to have to go back up there anyway. Like, show us where this guy is." So they show up. Of course, cops are with Jeff. Jeff's even more pissed off now because, like, he's like, "Great,
Yep.
cops are here.
Smells rolling
And
out.
bodies smell is rolling out." He's like, we didn't get in a fight. Like, he's like trying to hide it, and he's like, this guy's really upset.
Yeah.
He's like, well, I'll go get the key, and the cops are like, no, we'll get it. We'll get it. So they go in. Jeff's getting pissed because it's in the bedroom.
Mm-hmm.
He's got shady shit in the bedroom that normal people wouldn't have in their bedroom.
All his Polaroids.
All his Polaroids, because he had a drawer open with all of those laid out. A cop goes in there. He's like, "Where's the key?" And they're like, "It fucking stinks in here. Where's your fucking key?" And he's like, "It's in the drawer. I can get it." And they're like, "No, we'll get it." And they happen to notice the Polaroids, and it was very evident
Yeah.
that those took place in that apartment because they can recognize some of the decor in the photos that was in the very apartment that they are standing in that moment. And it is at this point that Jeff did put up a fight and he was arrested in that given moment.
Thank God.
So obviously,
Thank God.
can you imagine how Tracy Edwards had to feel when they come out and they're like, you just escaped a serial killer? Can you imagine?
I would have bawled. Just bawled.
would have bawled. Like, I would have had uh, yeah, it's wild. So they call for police, obviously. Jeff's been arrested. Neighbors are like, what the hell's going on? They're all in the hallway. They're like, what did you find? And they're like, we're not going to talk about it.
Yeah.
We don't want to talk about everything that they found because there's the barrels there with the acid. They
They
had
opened the
legit had.
fridge, opened the freezers.
Oh, don't worry. I have the list. We're gonna read
Oh,
it off
let
of everything. I love yeah, I love it. She's like, great.
they
This
like
is
beets.
everything that they found in Jeff's apartment. Get ready. As if y'all haven't suffered through enough, but this was everything that all right, the crime scene. A human head, 3 bags of organs, which included 2 hearts. This was found in the refrigerator. 3 heads, a torso, and various internal organs were inside a freestanding freezer. Chemicals, formaldehyde, ether, and chloroform, plus 2 skulls, 2 hands, and men's genitalia were found in the closet.
Wow.
A filing cabinet that contained 3 painted skulls, a skeleton, a dried scalp, male genitalia, and various photographs of his victims. A box with 2 skulls inside. A 57-gallon the barrel, sorry, I couldn't say it, filled with acid and 3 torsos. Victims' identification, he kept their IDs. I guess that was part of his trophy on top of keeping the remains itself. Bleach that was used to bleach the skulls and bones, because remember, as a small child, Lionel showed him how to do that. Incense sticks. Neighbors often complain about Dahmer's about the smell coming from his apartment, so he had incense, I guess, thinking that
Yeah, that would cover it
it's
up.
not funny. I'll
No,
buy
but
this
his
incense.
thought process was terrible.
He had tools. He had a claw hammer, a handsaw, a drill, several drill bits. Um, he had a hypodermic needle, various videos, which some were very pornographic, a blood-soaked mattress with and blood splatters. Oh, so that means he did a lot of what he did on his own mattress and would
Where
climb
he
in the bed and
slept.
sleep at night where he slept. Yes,
No.
and the best, a King James Bible.
Because that did
Yes,
any justice at
that
all
did
to
him.
that man.
That did him so much good.
There is no saving
Yes,
that
that was.
man. I don't care. No.
There is obviously substantial evidence standing against him.
Turn to Jesus because he's
No
going to
one.
kick your ass to the curb.
Yeah, he's got a lot of evidence. So, if you watch the Dahmer tapes on Netflix, one of the officers that did find some of this evidence, who seems pretty chill, which I'm very surprised. He talks about finding all these things, and he said, I just kind of was straightforward with Jeff, and I didn't cut any corners, but I talked to him like I would talk to you because I need him to explain what the hell you're doing with a human head in your refrigerator. And Jeff just sang like a canary. He even asked for the death penalty. He was like, "Can you guys just electrocute me because I know something's wrong with me?" Which is kind of sad, but at the same time, I'm trying not to be empathetic because I mean, you were completely out of control. You did know what you were doing was not right because you tried to hide it.
Yep.
If you didn't think that it was wrong, you wouldn't have tried to hide it.
At
You
that
would,
point,
you
was
know
it
what
a
I mean?
pity thing? Like, oh, I'm caught. Like, are you just saying that because you were caught? Is this now you're
No.
playing you're trying to
That's
victimize
why
yourself?
that's part of my big interest with Jeff is I can't tell if he's genuinely sorry or if it's just a
Because
put
he was
on.
just so blah. Like,
He has a very very flat effect.
yeah.
Very effect. So he's come forward. He's telling them all of his murders. Of course they have to call Lionel. They call Lionel. and he comes to the police station where they're like, so your son's been arrested, and he's thinking, great. Who has he sexually assaulted now? I'm sure that's what went through his mind. And if only that would have been what it was. Not that that's any better or anything, but if only that's what it was. So they literally read him the very list that we just read
Oh,
to
geez.
him. And they're like, yeah, they did. They didn't hold anything back. They were like, we found torsos, we found heads, we found genitalia, we found pictures, we found tools, we found basically like an altar. Like, we found all these things in your son's apartment, and he has confessed to killing 17 men, young
Jesus.
boys and men, I should say. And Jeff, excuse me, Lionel's just sitting there with a blank stare. What do you say to that?
I
Could you
honestly, no.
imagine?
No.
My heart breaks for that man.
Yeah.
I can't help it. But this is where we have to in part 3. It is going to be a 4-parter. I'm sorry. But again, there's just so much. Like
Even in jail.
I, I don't, yeah, even in jail and even in the courtroom, which is what we will be covering next week. And again, I'm sorry, y'all. I feel like if you're going to tell this story, it's important to recognize all of those people.
Yeah. I agree. But
Yep.
since we're ending it, you all already know where I'm going with this, and you already know what you got to do. You got to go find us
Do
on
it.
most social media platforms. If you prefer listening, you can listen to us on Spotify. If you like the video and the live things, have it in the background while you're cleaning, find us on YouTube. We release new episodes every Wednesday night at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And we appreciate all of your support, and we love you guys.
Yes, thank you guys. We love you.
We'll see you on episode 4 of Dahmer. It's not
Yes,
episode
4 of
4, it's
Dahmer.
episode
Sorry.
13, but 4 of Dahmer. So,
Yes. All right. And I promise I'll wrap it up because
and we'll have
I'm
the
done with
girls.
this fucktard.
They're done with
Yes.
him
And the
too.
girls will be there. Yeah, they're done with him too. They're like, we're so sick of listening to this shit.
Please end it.
All right. Bye, guys.
Bye.